Happy Friday and welcome to Live with the Zone. This is our final discussion about massive open online courses and are they the future of higher ed? How do they fit with higher ed? And we have with us Ross Perkins, who is an associate professor from the Academic Technologies, Educational Technologies Department in the College of Ed here at Boise State. And Susan Emerson, she works here in IT at Boise State and she's actually enrolled in a couple of MOOCs right now and is going to kind of show us around a couple of those so that we can see what they look like in person.
Okay, so last week I had talked about the possibility of offering credit for MOOCs, for MOOC participation, and trying to tie that into what we already do here at Boise State to recognize informal learning. And talked about the fact that we probably, as a university, would not be offering our own MOOCs, at least right away, because of logistical constraints. I have mentioned that I did participate in a couple of Coursera courses. I get emails still, actually, from courses that ended some weeks ago, which is interesting to me, that they're still sending me out emails. Particularly since the class said it was going to be over in 8 weeks, and here 16 weeks later, or whatever it is, I'm still getting emails. In any case, the real crux of the matter here at BSU, I believe, is how do we allow students who are taking MOOCs to receive any credit for them? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a MOOC in terms of being organized through Coursera, or through Udacity or edX or whomever is offering a MOOC. But it could potentially be a string of experiences that the student ties together him or herself, using various resources and maybe packaging it. So right now we have this structure, I didn't mention this last week necessarily, but where you go into Coursera and you register and you have these pieces that are brought together by Coursera, by a university. And it still makes the assumption that universities need to be the fount of knowledge. Like I said, there are some philosophical issues to consider. But what about a student who understands one or two things about instructional design of an online course and decides to set his or her own goals and then pulls in content from various pieces of the web and says, these are the things I want to accomplish, these are the places from which I will receive the knowledge. And in order to show you my knowledge about whatever topic it is, this is the product or the capstone project that I'm going to give to you. Now, somebody, in order to get credit for that, somebody in the world has to assess that and credit it, because as philosophical as we may get, the university is still the place where those credits are earned. I say the university, it could be a community college as well. Any institution of higher education, I should say tertiary institutions, not just universities. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, whether tertiary institutions either turn toward just relying on content from MOOCs, or whether they expand the vision and say, okay, well, you don't necessarily have to have gone through a MOOC, but you can show us these pieces of knowledge from these other places, and as long as they're organized in this manner. So rather than having Coursera, which is pre-built by Stanford and they contract with other universities to plug the content into it, why not set an open LMS where people can plug in their own content to it and create their own courses, which actually might have more broad appeal to people just beyond, maybe a certain setting. So I think that the possibilities are wide open. Sir?
Kind of to follow up on that, I'm curious, do you have any recommendations? Could there be any benefit for a faculty member putting together a MOOC?
You mean a formal MOOC?
Like a formal, yes, exactly. Like outside of their already busy schedules as instructors on a university campus or on a higher ed campus.
Well, there are. I think probably Dale outlined this in his talk. I don't know, but I think that for a professor to do that, I mean, we're all here in higher education. We're all lifelong learners. And there is the selfish advantage of it, of producing something that can attract other people just to create this community of learners. and to surround this topic. And rather than feeling like, I just need to talk to my colleague down the hall, or, in Boise it's kind of isolated. So there's really, just a couple of institutions to talk to. But now if you form that type of course and you form a thinking around it, maybe you drive a lot of people to it who have very divergent thoughts, whether they stay for 1 week or 10 weeks or whatever else. You have that possibility. The other possible advantage is that the professor is working with the university in terms of marketing and promotion, that these MOOCs are sometimes created as a hook, as a way for students. I've heard of one institution, and the name doesn't come to me right away, that's offering a MOOC, and their MOOC is really, in essence, a loss leader. So it's just like the pre-dawn sales at Target or at Best Buy on Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, where they will say, come take our MOOC for free, and if you decide to enroll in our degree program, a certificate, or whatever else, that content will count toward the completion of your degree. And so there's a certain degree to which the giving away of content winds up being a sales tool. And that's no different, like I said, than a retail, big box retailer does the same thing. So yes, ma'am.
If it does become sort of a targeted marketing tool, my question is, at what point does it lose that massive, that M in our acronym? Because the original thought was to make it available internationally to anybody. But as you said, Boise is sort of isolated and probably limited scope of who Boise State tries to attract or recruit. I don't know if you have that.
I think I compared it, to this last week. I think the massive part of it will always have to be there, because you're casting at that point a very wide net. You never know who you might get. If speaking from my own experience in the Department of Educational Technology, we offer an online program. That online program is available to whomever, wherever they are. Now, in some places, there are more constraints. There are friends of mine, colleagues of mine, who work in developing nations that their teaching colleagues aren't even making $1,500 a year, and that's what it costs per class, more or less, for our courses. So the chance of a foreign national taking it in a place that has a very low GDP is unlikely. But there are, we have many expatriates who live in China, Japan, Italy, Israel, who are taking our courses, and like I said, it's available to all those teachers everywhere. But we're not going to attract them all. But we attract enough of them to have a very vibrant, large program. And we have Christine's here. I think we offer a very good, product, if you want to call it that. I mean, some people really reel at the fact that it's a product, thinking about academic courses in a widget type of way. But I think that when we start to wrap our heads around MOOCs, we need to think more in a sense of it being a commodity than we traditionally think of an on-campus academic course. People talk about badgification, giving badges for learning. Well, we give badges now. They're on your transcript, and it's called a degree. We don't call them badges. So in the same way, we do these things now. We just do not often talking about it in terms that are more couched in marketing, publicity, business, that the university has, and I think Dr. Custer, the president of BSU, has talked about this many times in the past couple of years, is that we need to rethink this direction for the university, because the traditional brick and mortar and thinking about it as being Boise State's always been a commuter campus, but it's increasingly a residential campus. But even though it grows residentially, it still is a model that is probably on the way out. So what replaces that? What replaces the institution? I don't think we'll always have a niche doing what we're doing, as any institution will. But as I mentioned last week, decreasing state funds, an incredible increase in the number of people who are competing for grants, external grants. Just look at the NSF alone. The number of funds that it has really hasn't changed a whole lot, but the competition for those funds has increased markedly. So where then does that money come from? How do you market yourselves? Can you rely on people just coming to Boise, Idaho? And the answer is probably as beautiful a place as it is, it's probably not going to happen. So, I think it'll always be massive. It'll always be massive, but the people who actually take advantage of it to come into an institution is going to be a very narrow set. But then, how many people actually finish a MOOC anyway, right? So, I mean, they're massive, but, if you have 10,000 people in a MOOC and only 5 can finish it, how does it matter that it was massive? So it's always that issue.
So on that note, Susan, as someone who is currently in a MOOC and has taken a couple of these, and thank you so much for volunteering today to talk with us, could you tell us kind of what attracted you to participate? I mean, why would you want to do this?
Well, the first part, I started to learn about it when I attended this computer law policy conference in Cornell, that's where I was first exposed to it, and that was more based on this big discussion on the massiveness of it, like 23,000 in a couple of classes, and the learning. And then I came back, and I just hear a lot of talk on campus. There's a lot of online drive right now, and so for a couple of reasons, operating as a technical support specialist, aka knowledge worker, I wanted to see what the professors were doing so that I could be able to help support it, understand the use of YouTube or videos or forums, and just try to be familiar with that technology. So that was part of it. The second part, I like to learn as well, and the courses are pretty, they're pretty interesting. All the way from anthropology, which one of my friends took, to the ones that I've enrolled in and loosely participated in, and we'll discuss that in a moment, are the history of the internet, which is, I'm sorry, I didn't stay in that one. And
yeah. It was his autobiography.
Shortly, yeah. And passion-driven statistics, which may sound kind of boring, but means that we're such a, I know, doesn't it? I struggle with that class, getting my master's, it almost took me down.
Yeah.
But this focus on being data-driven and metrics and measurement anymore, I thought it was well worth understanding that and understanding how stats worked and how you're gathering data is always useful.
But yeah, and that actually answers, before I forget to mention it, that kind of partially answers maybe just a question about why would a professor want to do a MOOC. I can't remember where this article is, and I've read it and I've got an archive. I can't tell you more than that on it, but it's talking about why is a MOOC useful to Coursera. Why give away anything for free? And the fact is that Coursera, even though it's giving away stuff for free, is gathering a tremendous amount of data. And it's user-specific data. Now, not to be too skeptical, but I tend to go that way, is that what do those data mean for a company like Coursera, whomever? You can really start to very specifically target marketing pieces for people as you see their progress through a course. You could also use it in a kind of more optimistic or bright-eyed way of looking at it, is looking at what course interventions are possible. When you're looking at testing instructional design decisions, what better way to do it than to have people kind of go down through a tree, and then as people make decisions here, they get this content, and the first 16 people, or first, let's say 600 people that went through this tree, they wound up kind of like fizzling out. But now this other 600 people that went through this other tree, wow, 400 of them stayed. So what is it about that path that makes 400 people stay? So there's quite a bit of actually instructional design knowledge that one could gain from setting up a course, as long as your back end was robust enough to gather those data and you had an analytical method of doing it, which can happen on the fly if you have a lot of really good software, or it could happen in a summative fashion. But yeah, it's the other side of that coin is that when one signs up for a course, potentially it's interesting. You're already making a statement. You're already clicking on a channel that interests you, so they know that about you. And the next choices that you make also, if you actually go through it,
Yeah, no.
That's
the challenge
can provide some information that it could be used, and I don't necessarily mean nefarious ways, but in ways that you might not have intended setting up.
But see, and I'm getting those emails. We've noticed you've taken these classes, so you might be interested in this. It's that similar, wherever that happens on Google, we've noticed you looking at these ads, so you might. So that is already occurring. I think that there's some monitoring going on. Plus, the funding, and I was expecting about 1,000. I was really naive, 1,000. So when I realized on the one, the history of internet, there were 23,000. And this guy, the professor, I can't remember, he was at the University out of Chicago, and he went to a lot of conferences, but he would actually say, I'm going to be at this conference if you would like to talk to me. Here's an opportunity. But also, there's that part where you talk about badges, that you can purchase a badge to put on your, and I need to get that information. We've talked about it before, that you can actually purchase something to say that you're taking a class, and it's not a lot of money, but even at 10 cents, if you multiply that times.
So you only need to have about 5,000 people finish a class
right.
with a $50 certificate.
Right.
You're talking about some real money.
Yeah. So, and that would be some really good information to confirm, but I did see that, offered.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the department, again, you look at it from an academic department, and you look at the amount of money that's not right now being given, being funded through the state. I'm just talking about Idaho. Any given academic department, let's just say that over the course of 8 months, between the instructional design fees and whatever else, and professor time and maybe a course release, you might be talking about $15,000 for a MOOC development because of the amount of time that it takes and video editing, blah blah blah. You open that course, you have 23,000 people in the course, and let's just say 10% finish. Okay, that's a pretty low number. Let's do 2,300 people that finish the course. Now multiply that times their $50 certificate that they get, and that money, if it's negotiated through the university, could potentially come back to the department. And I can't do $50 times 2,300 in my head very quick, but that's the money enough to buy a lot of adjuncts. It's money to buy equipment that right now faculty members might not be getting. It's money to fund travel to professional conferences, just for making a course open online. And there would have to be some level of interaction in it, but most of the people that are teaching it are actually handling the day-to-day are GAs. I mean, you're not talking the professor is the one who does the videos, but after she's done, it's kind of out of her hands. So.
It is. And there is there's prestige for purchasing that badge because I'm taking a class from Harvard, or taking a class.
Right.
But that was the other part of it is the one professor makes it very clear how peer-driven or GAs are teaching it, and that's the forum, and they're really trying to connect you with those forums and those groups, and that if you don't like a grade that you get, there won't be any review of it. That's what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And my one friend who's not here, she was taking an anthropology class, and she's an excellent writer, and she wrote a paper and didn't do very good marks on it. She was pretty upset by it because the comments suggested, so she was wondering, did I not understand the question? But there wasn't really a mechanism for her to go get different feedback on why her answer wasn't more satisfactory.
Yeah. Yes.
I had a couple of questions before you move on. The first question is, Susan, since you've enrolled in a course, is there an end user license agreement or something similar to that when you enroll that says, your data may be used for marketing purposes or, any kind of legal warning?
I'm sure there is. But
there is.
Who reads that?
I know.
Except
I'm totally guilty of that. There is. I come to these policy conferences to learn about that, and should know better to read the fine print. And I have to admit that I'm on the course. I want to get into it. I'm just clicking through it, and there is an agreement. It's an integrity agreement, but I'd have to read more in depth. I'm sure there is.
It would just be interesting to see, what kind of marketing data they're telling you that they're going to use.
Yeah. I'll slow down next time.
Well, that's why you give them kind of false data now. It's like on Facebook when the little adverts come up on the side and it says you don't like this ad, why? And you always mark the most innocuous ones as porn or something. So just so they know that they're no longer showing you the ad, something like, buy bottled water. Like, no, inappropriate content.
Add one.
like
Add one plus.
politically inflammatory. Disagree.
So my second question was, when you talk about badges or purchasing badges, you know, I follow a lot of management blogs and some of HR type things. And one of the big questions that's come up is, should I put it on my resume that I've taken X, Y, or Z course and that I've passed, and here's the badge I purchased for $50 or something like that. And right now, most of those advice columns, blogs, etc., are saying no.
Really?
Unless it's a degree from an accredited institution, that you shouldn't put that as even professional development, unless it was a very specific skill set. But that MOOCs are just too new, and it may appear to be kind of gimmicky in some regard. But that, again, I think relates back to the newness of it. And that as years go on, if it continues to be a model, I could see putting it on a resume. But right now, a lot of resume advices don't put it on there.
That's interesting, because that was part of what motivated me also, was that I think I'm losing track of my camera.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is that it would, because you know, if I would bother to finish one, so I need to say that I haven't finished one. I've ended up dropping out. I'm sure that out of 23,000, they're pretty aware that Susan Emerson has dropped out, which hurts my ego. But I thought it would look good on a resume to see that I was continuing ed, stats, you know, internet history, that I'm knowledgeable about that, and the rhetorical writing one, just practicing writing, different forms of writing. So that is good.
And I think it could also depend on, you know, where you're taking the course from. And because it's only been very recent that there's even been, you know, Coursera or the other players in that game. So, you know, as time goes on, it might be different. But I think when it's too Wild West for some, and it could also depend on the industry that you're into.
Right.
So I have a question to follow up on that, and then yeah, if you could just show us through, that'd be really cool. When you're going through the MOOCs, is the content similar to what you'd experience in like an undergraduate level class?
Ones that I've looked at, yes. They're pretty. The professors that I are looking at, they're really organized on their content.
So you feel like when you're being tested that it's not to make you feel good about taking the class, but that you're actually being tested on how much you have learned?
Yeah, they're really, even the tone of, they're very enthusiastic. They're very much wanting you to connect. The forums are the big issues where you're interacting with other students. And, yeah, do you want me to show you?
Would you mind just kind of showing us through just a little bit? That would be, I think that would be nice for folks to see that.
I know, these are the ones that, there we go. You sign up for Coursera, and then you have a login. It's similar to Facebook or Google Plus. You know, you can create your profile, which I haven't really done, but this is the class that I'm enrolled in, and it's well along the way, you can see, and I haven't done any work in it. So there you go. Maybe next time. But just so you can see some of the layout here. You know, I just think that they're incredibly well organized on the assignments, the discussion forum. And this was one because the instructor wanted us to engage in blogs. And I've been working a lot with WordPress. By the way, I love the blog community. That's a whole new world to get into. Or I know it's been around for a while, but this one was through Tumblr, which I wasn't familiar with blogging through Tumblr. Have you done that?
I use WordPress.
Yeah, me too. So that you know, so sometimes there's a lot of just kind of upfront time on getting familiar with, you know, for example, Tumblr, or getting connected to these data sets. They were using SAS here, and getting connected to the server. And we touched a little bit, I'm not sure. Mouse around. On this particular one, it's not on this page, but there is a list of countries that they admit aren't going to be able to access the data set. So, from an international perspective on being able to participate, that, because we touched on that in here, that was interesting, about 5 of them. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Okay, well, we'll just leave that. Take my word for it. They're about 5 or 7 countries. Anybody wants to talk while I'm clicking around here?
So those countries that are blocked, is it due to copyright concerns?
No, I think that I'm not sure why they weren't going to be able to get to the servers.
Because for example, if you share certain YouTube videos, people outside of the U.S. can't see a lot of them. So I wonder if that impacts the availability of content in MOOC.
A couple of them. And here's the one that I'm really actually wanting. This one just started. I would really like to do this one. Again, but they give you a lot of information about who's instructing it. Go to the class here, the session, how long it is. They recommend 6 to 8 hours. Participating in week 1. They've created a legend here for when you're looking at different parts of the syllabus. But I'm just at the beginning of this one. So I'm by no means an expert. What so far would have been the stumbling blocks for me are just the time. I work 40 hours, and I have really good intentions of wanting to learn more, but at the end of the day, I want to sit at the computer. So that's sort of a detriment there. I'm sorry it works out that way. If I could win the lottery, then it's great.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
But I definitely am interested in trying to, this is my goal now, is to get through this one and participate with the writing and really see how the forums work and how the interaction works with the other students. My friend Noreen, she got a little bit further along where she was interacting with the students in the forums. She wasn't really happy with it a lot. Because I think, you asked that undergraduate question, she felt that she was working at kind of a more higher level, whether that was communication.
So how do the classes kind of work? Like what's kind of the delivery? How do you start the first class? Is there a video, or do you read a book? Or?
Yeah, there usually is an introductory video telling you how to, what the course is about, what to expect. The history of the internet was really lengthy. It was like 20 minutes. Where the information is located. A lot about how you spent a lot of time on how it would or would not be graded, and so there weren't expectations of getting answers or having an assignment. So yeah, they do a lot of introductory videos. This one and the statistics one had us do a survey because they wanted to know a little bit more about us, and that may be the data part right there, just to see your level and it's there. So that's about what I can show you as far as here's some of the video. See there, you can see the welcome video. Here they're giving a little more instruction on the first assignment. I know on the statistical one, there was a whole video on how to get to the SAS and the data sets, and because that was a little bit intricate, being able to download the server that they were using.
About how many hours, if you were to take this as part of your job and you wanted to get it done, about how many hours per week would I don't want to call you not a serious student, but as somebody who's serious about finishing it, how many hours per week?
They're recommending 6 to 8. I could easily see 6 to 8 or 10.
And so would that 6 to 8 hours equate to a 3-credit course?
What is it? 1 credit is equal to.
Is it 3 hours?
I think it's basically 1 to 3 ratio.
Yeah, so that's about right.
Is there a lot of reading involved? Associated texts or anything like that, or is it all PDF?
This particular course is PDF. They have quite a few PDF files for us to read. I haven't, because I didn't really get into the other ones. I don't know that I can answer that thoroughly. I believe the anthropology one, she had a lot of reading to do.
How are the quality of the videos? Are they just kind of a, yeah, I didn't know if it was, instructor in front of a webcam,
Let's see what we have here. See if we can see.
or if they use something like Captivate or Articulate to develop their videos. Yeah, looks like they definitely do that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the playing sound, but it seems pretty good.
Yeah, that's,
Anything else?
oh yeah, Camtasia, or maybe even Coursera provides a video template that you can kind of plug and play. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. You should do these. You should do this again, and then maybe I'll finish a course.
Right.
Because it would be interesting to get somebody that's been all the way through.
What kind of interaction do you get from the instructor? Do you get one-on-one at all?
Now, I can't speak to that really because I haven't.
Mhm. Gone through it.
Yeah.
I understand.
But I mean, right now it seems that most of the interaction is going to be through the forums and they're setting up the community that you're interacting with. Though this one, they were setting up a Google Hangout. I did see that on the course.
So they answer more general questions or address general issues.
Where you're invited to one. Of course, once again, I can't find it here, but I did receive an email to be invited to the Google Hangout. Or I suppose on the Internet History one, if I could have traveled to where the instructor, the professor was at one of those conferences, but through this, I can't answer that fairly.
Do we know what, is this a Coursera's proprietary platform? Or do they use something like Moodle? Or, I doubt you can answer that. I'm just kind of musing. I wonder.
This is the statistics.
Do you guys have any other questions?
That's about it.
I thought we. Well, thank you, Susan, and thanks to Ross, whose daughter was here and he had to take off early to take care of his daughter. And thanks to the folks from CWI that are here in the room today, and to the few of you that are online. Appreciate you joining our talks. You can review the videos online at oit.boisestate.edu/live for our Live with the Zone talks. And please bookmark that page. We'll be doing some other talks on how technology influences education and how we use technology in higher education. And thank you for joining us today.